Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Crash Zoom. I'm Associate Editor of Rough Draft, Sammie Purcell, and I'm here, as always, with my co-host, Aaron Strand. How you doing today, Aaron?
I'm doing all right, Sammie. This is officially the dog days of summer. I am so sticky just sitting here, even my air-conditioned house. It is disgusting and still and just hard. Everything feels kind of oppressive. But anyway, I hear don't take this offensive. I'm using this as a non-offensive segue, but you look a little tired. Did you have a fun night last night?
I did. I went to Beyonce here in Atlanta last night.
Never heard of her.
Just a little unknown artist. She's up and coming, But
oh, cool.
It was, I believe,
Acoustic
the third
set,
or fourth show. Oh yeah, totally low-key. No, it was really amazing. It was, I'd seen her before, and this was sort of a last-minute thing that we just decided to do. I had a friend who really wanted to go, so we got tickets up sort of in the nosebleeds. And it was still incredible. I think all of us had a really great time. I really like Cowboy Carter, the new album, so it was pretty exciting to see all those songs. And she's just kind of an immaculate performer. The stamina required to put on a show of that scale and sing 40 songs or whatever it might be and dance the whole time. It's 3 hours straight. I think we got out she started at 8:30ish and we got out at 11:30ish. So wow. 3 hours. Yeah. It was really, really, really good. I am dead tired. We took MARTA. I'm out in Smyrna. So we took MARTA from the HE Home station. Which actually was pretty smooth, kind of getting there and back, but it just took a little bit of time, so I didn't get home till 1:30. So
Damn.
Pretty mean, but it was worth it. It was a lot of fun. She was great.
That's awesome.
She flew
on
a horse.
Yes. Well, I heard. She replaced her carriage with a golden horse.
She did. Right? Well, the carriage broke.
Yeah, the carriage broke. Yeah,
so it was a little perilous, and I was still they bring out the horse and they're kind of hiding it, but we were so high up we could see it kind of behind the flags that were surrounding it, and they looked like they attached the flies to it in the moment, and then she just got up on it and it flew all over Mercedes-Benz. So I was still a little oh my god, is she a little perilous? I would be nervous if I were her, but that's why she's one of the many reasons she has her job and I don't. So
I know that you've also seen Taylor Swift on one of her big tours. So
yes.
Do you have a preference between the sort of mega diva superstars of the mid 2020s in terms of live show?
Honestly, no. I think they have different strengths. It's just a very different show. Beyonce, I would say, is a little more. And I don't say this to say that Taylor Swift is not 100% put together all the time, but Beyonce, I think, projects more regality almost, whereas Taylor is still trying to perform the hey, I'm your best friend, ha 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 kind of thing, which I think she does very well, but I don't think Beyonce is particularly interested in that. So it just comes across very differently. And Beyonce's show is a lot about motherhood as well. Blue Ivy is one of her backup dancers, and she's 13 years old. I was really impressed by that 13-year-old's dancing skills. And then Rumi, her younger daughter, comes out at one point. So it's very much about projecting. And Jay-Z was there last night. I forgot to mention that. He hasn't come out, and he popped out and came and did a song. And then she did Drunken Love, which I don't think she's been doing on many of the tour stops, or all of them. I don't know. But so I feel I don't know, something about Beyonce is a little more put together than Taylor, even though I think Taylor is working very hard to project that level of not put togetherness, if that makes sense. Yeah, but I enjoyed them both. I had a great time. I probably know more Taylor Swift songs than I do Beyonce songs, but I still know a lot of Beyonce songs, so it was fun. All right. So on this podcast, believe it or not, we don't spend our whole time talking about the pop divas of the world, although mind that. Might be kind of fun. Anyway, this is Crash Zoom. On this podcast, what Aaron and I do is we talk about film industry news. So we take a look at what's going on in the film industry from a big picture standpoint, and we try to boil down why that matters to the independent creative. And if you listen today and you like what you hear, please make sure to hit that subscribe button. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And you can also watch us on YouTube at Crash Zoom Podcast. Be sure to rate and review as well. That really helps us out. So if you didn't listen last week, we're on week 2 of a kind of new format for us. So instead of diving into like 4 to 6 different topics and spending about an hour talking about all of those, we are going to start releasing 2 episodes a week and just spending 20 to 30 minutes an episode talking about one particular topic. So this week, we're talking about Aaron's favorite guy, David Zaslav. I picked this just for you. So we're going to spend today talking about an Indiewire opinion piece from Christian Blauvelt. Hope I'm pronouncing that right, Christian. But this article is titled, David Zaslav is the Good Guy? Why He Might Have Saved Turner Classic Movies. So just to give some background for this, if you'll remember, Aaron's already shaking his head. It's great. If you'll remember in 2023, Zaslav and Warner Brothers Discovery did some layoffs. There's some layoffs at TCM at Turner Classic Movies. It was so bad that PTA, Spielberg, and Scorsese, like the Avengers of directors, I guess, the Avengers of filmmaking, called a meeting with Zaz to sort of talk him through why TCM is important. And there's a funny kicker at the end of this article that I want to get to, but we'll talk about that later. So back then, this same journalist wrote an op-ed, slamming, I think, rightly, Zaslav's sort of disdain for TCM. It was sort of like a, savings kind of endeavor, like trying to cut costs, etc. on WBD's part. But this piece is a response to the WBD split, which we talked about a few weeks ago. So Warner Brothers Discovery is splitting into a streaming and studios group, which will oversee film and television production. And then there'll also be a global network side, which will oversee the network side of things. So there are TNTs, etc. But TCM is going to be a little different in that split. TCM will serve as sort of bridge between those two sides. So distribution and operation is going to be handled by global networks. And then the creative direction of TCM is going to be steered by Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi, who are head of studios and streaming. And they've been handling that kind of since those mass layoffs. So they've been doing this for a while. So I guess let's stop there. What do you think, Aaron? Is David Zaslav the good guy?
No, he is not. And after being suckered in and seduced
like
by
a real turn of events.
After being suckered in and seduced by the Michael Wolff article all those months ago, where I couldn't help but kind of feel a little bit for David Zaslav. This is not the space, I think, to really feel for David Zaslav. So yes, TCM is now in this sort of special arrangement. It has a special relationship within the WBD split, which is really giving it sort of favored status among all the linear assets, which have all been spun off to the global network's abyss, along with all the studio's debt. But let's be very clear about what is happening here. I don't think this has anything to do to this article is sort of filled with red herrings. This has nothing to do, I think, to appease Spielberg or Scorsese or PTA, and I don't think they have anything to do with this. I don't think this is done to appease any of the Hollywood filmmakers in the hopes of making WBD a filmmaker first studio. The play here, as with always, and is always the bottom line, and particularly with Zaz, it's always the bottom line. And this is trying to create and extract value from cinephile culture that, like so many assets in the WBD portfolio, they have just done a horrible job of playing, and they have done a horrible job of brand management. There are so many built-in advantages that TCM has that should have positioned WBD to take advantage of this spread of cinephile culture, the spread of Letterboxd, and particularly the spread of short-form video. I mean, first of all, they have this giant library of Warner Brothers films. We're talking 100 years of Hollywood classics. when they did these, and talk about, this is all sort of in keeping on par with the back and forth nature of Warner Brothers Discovery ever since Zaslav took over. So they come out with these massive 80% layoffs in 2023. They get the pushback from these Hollywood heavy hitters who then go on to serve as, sort of advisors on the board or whatever. Then in December 2024, they announced that they're actually upping the content spend for the TCM hub on the Max app, which has now officially been rebranded HBO Max on the app side. And so you've got this huge library access for Warner Brothers content, as well as the other content that they license. There's a lot of crossover with Criterion Channel, but I went on and looked today, and I was really impressed with the offerings on the TCM hub. It is infinitely better than it was 6 months ago. They are directly competing with players that have carved out niche audiences within the streaming wars. We're talking Criterion Channel, we're talking Mubi, we're talking Amazon. But HBO Max has this incredible awareness deficiency that nobody thinks to look for their classic films on HBO Max. And so they have so much work that they need to make up on. The second thing that they have totally bumbled in this whole experience is short form video content. TCM basically invented the kind of short form supplemental, whether it's interviews with filmmakers or interviews with other filmmakers about the films they love, letting filmmakers do their picks. I mean, TCM short form videos on linear programming walked so that Letterboxd Top 4 could run.
Right.
But TCM has done such a horrible job on social, establishing that brand presence, establishing that identity, and even Criterion. Now all this kind of short form video content, this is like
Criterion.
It's expected to. It's what differentiates a great Criterion 4K release, or any 4K release. Now that we're in the golden age of sort of reissues and remasters and all these sort of, we have more access to classic cinema than ever before, and these supplemental pieces are expected to be a part of these DVD offerings. That wasn't always true. And TCM was really a forerunner in doing all that, and they have utilized none of it for a modern digital economy. So that's terrible. And then the last thing is they have something that so many other digital entities, or, linear entities, but I'm going to speak digitally because they're really, I think this move is really focusing on trying to bring TCM into the 21st century here, which is that they have in-person events. The TCM Film Festival has been a long-standing, long-running ode to classic cinema, particularly classic Hollywood cinema, not global cinema, that takes place in LA every year. They've just started expanding that. They did a little pop-up in New York City this past year, and these things are all great. But this should be like a fucking content factory for TCM, and it's just not. So, look, I think that this is the right move. They are trying to extract value from niche online cinephile culture like they should, but they are way behind, and I have serious doubts as to whether they can make up the gap.
Yeah, it's interesting, like kind of looking through the end of this article, it brought up sort of like the short form thing that you were talking about that TCM has kind of perfected. And I was really thinking about they've got Ben Mankiewicz, right? Who is like a part of like a grand Hollywood family. You know what I mean? Like they have this guy who and it's not like he's like totally like media averse. And I'm sort of like, I guess he's a little bit older, but their podcast does pretty well. He is like a recognizable figure. You would think that like they would have figured out how to sort of like spin this into a digital age the way like Criterion has done with like The Closet or whatever it might be, because that's something that people can watch on Twitter, right? It's not like Criterion collection stuff where you have to like have a subscription to be able to watch all the extra features, or like have the 4K release to be able to see whatever it is. Like that's just online. So I can watch David Cronenberg like say very nice things about Eraserhead and like spend his time as a sweet Canadian man in the Criterion Closet. And that's great. And it's just like interesting to me that they haven't been able to like spin this into something more digitally already, particularly with him at the helm. I don't know if I'm like putting too much stock in how like media savvy I think he is or how good I think he would be at it, but does that make sense?
Who, Mankiewicz
Ben
or
Mankiewicz.
Zaslav?
Yeah, I feel like he's just not Zaslav, Mankiewicz. I feel like he's like a pretty like good front-facing person to have who has a lot of credibility in the film industry among like artists. So it's just interesting to me that like they haven't lent on that more.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I don't think the sort of like linear personality has always translated that well to a digital space.
Sure.
I think the
Yeah.
digital space is more about inclusivity of lots of different, as many different voices as you possibly can, and the sort of like
Mm.
infinite memeability of those differentiated voices, rather than having a sort of front facing, like, personality that represents the entire brand. I mean, some
Mm-hmm.
people are able to do it. I mean, like, I'll
Right.
talk about other Turner properties. I mean, like, uh, Ernie, Kenny, Chuck, and Shaq over at TNT, like
Right.
NBA on TNT, are like able to do it, and like people almost care more about those guys talking than they do about the NBA regular season. But anyway,
Sure.
that's a digression that I shouldn't go down. The main point is that, like, I don't know. This is so in fitting with Warner Brothers Discovery post merger in the 2020s, in terms of just kind of like constantly fumbling the brand bag. I mean, they fumbled HBO, right? They lose the NBA. They desecrated the legacy of Cartoon Network and Adult Swim. They lose Sesame Street. And then throughout it all, what is the one common factor? An anxious and, frankly, just like, thou dost protest too much, need to push David Zaslav into the center of the story to try to make him seem like a good guy. I mean, in this article, we get ridiculous details that, like, well, Zaslav actually he has TCM
This
on in
is
the
the
background
kicker
of
I was
his
talking
office.
about. It's like such an
So
awkward kicker too,
stupid.
because I think it's supposed to read as like, and like, I'm a journalist. I love a good kicker, but like, I think it's supposed to read as like something like boom, like, kick, a kicker. And it's just like, and is even said, like, no, it's such a weirdly worded thing. It says, genuinely sentimental about the network and said to even have it on at his office quite often. First of all, weird way to word that. Second of all, it doesn't like, it just like, I feels as passive as anything that you could say about him. It's just like, I'm like, huh? Like, really? Also, why do I care? You know?
There is no
And-
way in David Zaslav is not a TCM guy. This guy came from Discovery.
right.
He is a reality television lowest common denominator cable cowboy, John Malone, shit runner who found himself at the head of a major media corporation, and he's now cosplaying as a media mogul. Like that, he's not a TCM guy. He can pretend to be, but he's just not. And it's so transparent. It's the same way that, like, when he was forcing the cameras, for some reason I'm talking a lot about the NBA, but when he was forcing the cameras during those Knicks playoffs
Oh,
games
yeah.
to consistently feature him on the broadcast, like, it's just so forced and obvious that's what the company mandate around the article is. And I just wish it would more be about, like, the inherent strength of the brand around TCM. I mean,
Right.
do you have any faith in this company that they can actually extract value, latent value that is sitting here from, all these industry advantages that they have?
I mean, it really comes down to like marketing, right? Like, my faith in Mike and Pam is like actually pretty strong at this point, as far as like, I guess their like cinematic qualifications. And, at least on the new release side, like what they've been able to do, I guess, with stuff like Sinners or like Minecraft, like, not that Minecraft is cinematic glory, but you know what I mean.
Oh no,
But
definitely a
yeah,
major
so
victory for the
I
year.
feel
Like, no,
like,
we shouldn't take that
yeah,
away from them.
yeah. So I feel like the like kind of faith that I have in them in that regard is pretty strong. But as you said, this feels more like a kind of like marketing thing to me. And I don't know, like, because TCM's brand identity, like, is super strong. But do you think it might feel like old fashioned to some? Like, is something like Criterion, like, does that feel like a little more modern? Or like Mubi is another example. Like, what do you think sort of would be like the struggle or challenge for them in sort of making that shift?
Yeah, TCM 1000% smells like a dusty old room and like a dusty old, like, yeah, it smells like my grandmother's house, like which is like where I got introduced to TCM. Actually,
Right.
my grandmother's house smelled lovely, for the record. So no ill will on my grandmother's name. But of course, it definitely carries this, a dustier,
Hmm.
older identity at this point. But they have all the resources and assets that they should be able to flip that
Right.
into into something that feels modern and cutting edge. There's no reason why Criterion and Janus Films should, be giving erections to 22-year-old film students across the country when they see those logos, and TCM should not. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
they absolutely have all the raw materials to have that kind of juice.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I mean, because it's not like, you talk about them having this sort of like old person home stench, which my grandmother's house also smelled good. But I do like have a sort of like, I guess there's like a nostalgia factor there that they could play on. I don't know. But like whenever I engage with a TCM product, which usually for me is the podcasting realm, like I think they're quite good and quite interesting and quite modern in how they like tend to approach those things. So I really do think it like comes down to marketing and figuring out how
Yeah.
to like engage digitally.
Marketing, but
Yeah.
more than anything, long-term marketing strategy, vision, focus, because the digital space moves so quickly. If you
Mhm.
don't have a consistent focus, mandate, and support from your corporate overlords, like you will disintegrate so quickly because this stuff moves so fast. Think about like
Mhm.
the kind of long-term commitment that Letterboxd has had to
Yeah.
their red carpet interviews, the consistency of their top fours, and they just hammer it again and again. They found something that worked and they just hammer it again and again. Think about like the fact that the New York Times is now more a gaming and cooking recipes platform than it is a news
Right.
platform. Yet they have been able to consolidate market share and actually establish, a stable subscriber base in a world where ad-based newspapers no longer exist, right? But like
Mhm.
they did that by transitioning to this media gaming company format. But all those things required such consistent long-term support, throwing things up against the wall in a strategic way and working with what worked and then forgetting the stuff that failed or moving on from the stuff that failed quickly. You just get none of that from the entire WBD experience. It's always like, well, it's going to be Max, and like, well, no, we fucked up. It's HBO Max, and oh, I'm so sorry. And like, and we're going to destroy all these, like trusted brands on linear television because now we're Max. And then it's like, oh, wait, let's bring them back in. Come on, TCM, you can come in the party. And like, yeah, it's just like, they literally feels like their brand strategy is thinking quarter to quarter. And it's really frustrating to watch.
Do you think that because there's this section in this article where it talks about it was like a kind of pop-up version of the Classic Film Festival in New York where they talked about how like, they had Pulp Fiction and The Empire Strikes Back. And the article kind of insinuates that like perhaps this is like the way that they become a little more, I guess, quote unquote modern, is being like, hey, like the idea of classic film doesn't have to be like a movie from the 1940s. But I don't even know if that's really like the problem. Like maybe that'll help a little bit, but I feel like the sort of interest in cinephilia is not just like an interest in something like Pulp Fiction. You know what I mean? Like people have always been interested in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, well, but
Yeah.
as far as just like raw materials, raw
Mm-hmm.
films to work with, like their cup runneth over. You go on
Right.
the TCM Hub on HBO Max app right now. It's an incredible offerings of American films from every decade. Yes, you get the old shit. If you want William Wyler movies or all sorts of retrospectives built around 1930s and 1940s stars and like true sort of
Right.
golden age of Hollywood stuff, it's there. But you also get like tons of other offerings. They should be executing the strategy that has actually worked for TCM Linear Network, which is
Mm-hmm.
incredibly eclectic, incredibly daring in terms of like, yeah, we'll put the weirdest shit on TV. My friend Millie DeCherico, when she ran TCM Underground, she was empowered to put films on that hadn't seen the light of day in
Right.
decades. Just amazing, amazing work. And that's what really has like honed and cultivated this audience. That core audience and that core model has grown exponentially with the internet into letterbox culture, into online cinephile culture. And it has spilled over into all these theaters doing all these repertory screenings because people want to get together and they want to watch movies. Look, the future of movies is so uncertain. We are so uncertain about the pipeline and the marketplace for new films and filmmakers. It is not working right now. It has arguably never been more uncertain, and it's only pushing people to retreat into the comfort and certainty of prestige movies, of movies that have been vetted for decades, that have been talked about in video stores for years and years and years. I mean, I can't even tell you, I am so excited. Kino Lorber just is doing a re-release of Night of the Juggler, a legendary film that has been impossible to find for so long, and I'm going to be able to see it on a big screen in August. I mean, I can't even tell you how excited I am. Anyway, but that's the blueprint. Like, they have the blueprint, but man, getting the dinosaur onto the internet is incredibly difficult, and they just don't. They've never succeeded in doing it yet. So.
Right. Let's get Mankiewicz a TikTok. Actually, I bet he already has one.
He probably has one, but it's not popping up in my feed, and that is a problem.
It's not, and it should.
I am algorithmically so primed for that content, and I have never seen it.
Absolutely. All right, I'll check once we're done talking about this. But all right, do you have anything else to say about one of the latest of Zaslav's attempts to feel artist friendly?
No, I have nothing else to say, but that I would really like to see Warner Brothers Discovery to demonstrate some long-term brand strategy and to actually build something that feels real and not reactionary.
All right. Well, we like to round out we usually do this at the top of the podcast, but we started doing at the end to sort of round ourselves out here. So, Aaron, what have you been watching lately? I saw you updated your letterbox, so we do have some stuff coming in.
Yeah. It's I've seen a couple things. Oh God, I should actually open my letterbox right now to double check. I teased this last week, but I watched The Inheritance, a 1961 film by Masakai Kobayashi, the film he made before Harakiri, which I of course am screening at the Plaza Theater on July 24th. The Inheritance was it's not a great film. It is a good film. It is a film that doesn't quite move in the way that I would hope. It's very impressive in the sense that it is essentially a stage play. I mean, it's very filmic. It's very, very sort of formal in its compositions, and it's very film literate. But no action takes place on screen. It is all people talking, and that works really well in Harakiri. I mean, Harakiri has some sword fights to kind of break up the monotony, and it was a harder sell on The Inheritance. Also, all the characters are quite disgusting and nasty, so it's kind of a film where it's like, I frankly wish they weren't nasty enough, and that probably has more to do with the film being made in 1961 than anything else. And so I would have liked the characters to be like a little scuzzier and dirtier, but I think that's really just my modern taste kind of projecting onto the film. So, but I'm really glad I watched it. Now, but real quick, before we jump into your what you have been watching. Because I have also dabbled into this, but it's because I have an exciting new announcement, which is that also rewatched the original Godzilla in preparation because I am taking the Behind the Slate podcast live show to a new venue. I will be doing monthly shows at Cine in Athens, Georgia, which is my original art house theater. This theater opened in the final months of me before I graduated high school in 2007. And so it is technically like my introduction to art house cinema. They're still going strong, and I'm very excited to bring Behind the Slate podcast to Athens Cine. I'm going to start it off with maybe my personal favorite movie of all time, the original 1954 Godzilla. And so we will be screening that on Thursday, August 7th at 8 p.m. So Athens, Georgia, show up. Let's watch Godzilla and have a great time.
That's so exciting. Awesome.
Yeah.
Congrats. Really bringing it back. Also dating yourself with that high school graduation date. Wow.
I am 36. I am about to turn 36 years old, Sammie. I am about to turn 36 years old.
Oh, that's great. All right. Well, speaking of aging, set that one up for myself. I've been watching, so Blank Check, the podcast is doing, or just finished their series on Amy Heckerling. So I've been watching a lot of Amy Heckerling films, including a lot of the late period stuff, which, as you might know, is like not very well regarded and kind of hard to find in some cases, or not hard to find anymore, I should say, but like when it came out, not really marketed, I would say. So a few weeks ago, I watched I Could Never Be Your Woman, which is an insane movie, not without its merits, but kind of insane. But recently, I watched her final film as of late, which is Vamps. It came out in 2012, and it stars Alicia Silverstone and Kristen Ritter as two vampires, but it's sort of like call it like a romantic comedy, but more about the platonic sort of love between these two friends than about any kind of boy who comes into their midst. But it was just really interesting watching it because I had a pretty good time, but you can tell that like she had almost like no money making this thing. I can't remember what exactly the budget was, but like for the kind of like level of effects that they needed and probably the time that they needed, it just like clearly wasn't there. So like the effects are really shoddy. Like some of like this, it's kind of stitched together in some places, but like the script itself, I thought was pretty great and really funny and like had some really kind of interesting things to say about aging as a woman. And I think like Amy Heckerling is a really interesting person to sort of like talk about that because she was like the teen whisperer well into her early 40s. Like I think she made Clueless when she was 41 or something like that. And that like basically created a whole new language for teenagers. So yeah, I would highly recommend it. I think I rented it because I am a baby and I can't deal with ad breaks, but I'm pretty sure it's on like Tubi if you want to watch it for free or anything like that. And I thought if you can get past the kind of like shoddy vampire effects, I thought it was pretty funny and really sweet. So
nice.
Yeah. Vamps.
Very cool. Vamps. I haven't seen any of those movies. I mean, it's in Clueless.
I Could Never Be Your Woman is an entertaining watch, but it is unhinged. It stars Michelle Pfeiffer. It is really autobiographical. It is Michelle Pfeiffer as like a 45-year-old divorcee. She used to be married to John Lovitz because that makes a ton of sense. And she's a single mom, and actually a very tiny Saoirse Ronan plays her daughter, and she is quite good. It's like pre-atonement Saoirse Ronan.
Wow.
And
this is already like, unhinged.
Yes, it's unhinged. And Michelle Pfeiffer is like the showrunner of a show that is clearly standing in for the Clueless TV show that Amy Heckerling did for like I think like she was around for like a season after Clueless came out and then she left. But it's like clearly very autobiographical. Stacey Dash plays the lead of that TV show, who is Dion in Clueless. Like it's very, very, very clearly personal and just slightly unhinged. It's entertaining, but it's wild.
All right, cool. Well, this has been great, Sammie. Thank you so much for joining me here. Do you have any other writing that you would like to shout out this week that people can check out? Any reviews coming out?
Yeah, so my Superman review should be up now, I believe. So you can go check that out. I am decidedly mid, but I don't want to yuck anyone's yum. I think people will enjoy it. And then this week I've got a review on Sorry Baby coming out, which was Sundance kind of darling that I didn't get to see when I was down there. And also a review on Don't Let's Go to the Dogs Tonight, which I believe is based off of, I think her name is Alexandra Fuller's memoir. So yeah, those are coming out this weekend.
Well, be sure to check those out. We'll have the link will be down in the show notes. This has been great. You can follow us Behind the Slate podcast on Instagram and TikTok. Email us. I'm sorry, I just did that wrong. You can follow us at Crash Zoom Podcast on Instagram and TikTok. Email us, crashzoompod@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. Be sure to rate and review this show. Hit us with the 5 stars. Leave a little note. It would really help us out. And until later this week, Sammie, I will talk to you.
Talk to you soon. Bye.